Welcome to my story. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe, and your support means the world.
Zinal Makona was only 15 years old the night her childhood ended forever. She grew up in a small house in Soweto, South Africa, where life was never easy, but she always believed one thing: her mother would never leave her. He was wrong. That night, the rain was heavy and cold, soaking through her thin sweater. The street light above her flickered like it was struggling to stay alive, just like her hope. Her mother, Nomusa Dlamini, stood in front of her with a hard face. No tears. No emotion. No love. Zinal's heart was pounding. She thought maybe her mother would hug her. Maybe say sorry. Maybe say she loved her. But she didn't. She simply held out a small plastic bag with Zinal's clothes and said in a flat, empty voice, "You're old enough to survive." That was it. No goodbye. No looking back. Nomusa got into the car, closed the door and drove away into the rain. Zinal stood there frozen, watching the red taillights disappear. She didn't run after her. She didn't scream. She couldn't. It felt like her voice had been stolen. In that moment she understood something no child should ever understand. She was completely alone. Minutes later another car stopped. It was her uncle Thabo Makona. He stepped out quickly and walked toward her. His face was full of pain, but his voice was gentle. He didn't ask questions. He didn't ask why. He simply put his arm around her shaking shoulders and said softly, "You're home now." And at that moment he saved her life. But even as she walked away with him, one truth stayed inside her heart forever. The rain stopped that night, but the pain never did. After that night, it was like Zinal never existed in her mother's world. Nomusa Dlamini didn't call. She didn't visit. She didn't even send a message to ask if her daughter was alive or dead. Instead she moved to Sandton and started a brand new life. A rich life. A happy life. At least that's what it looked like on the outside. She married a wealthy businessman. They lived in a big, beautiful house with high walls and shiny gates. Soon she had new children. A new family. And Zinal was not part of it. Sometimes late at night, Zinal would scroll through social media and see the photos. Her mother smiling, laughing, holding her new children, matching outfits, birthday parties, family vacations, perfect, like Zinal had never been born. Each photo felt like a knife in her chest. She would stare at the screen and think, how was it so easy for her to forget me? No birthday calls. No, "I miss you." No, "I'm sorry." Only silence. Cold, heavy, endless silence. But while her mother was living in luxury, Uncle Thabo was working every single day in his small mechanic workshop. His hands were always covered in oil. His back was always tired. Sometimes he came home late, limping from pain he never talked about. But no matter how hard life was, he never complained. And he never left her. He made sure she had food. He made sure she stayed in school. He made sure she felt safe. Some nights, Zinal would hear him coughing in his room and she would realize the truth. He was sacrificing everything for her. And he didn't have to. One evening, as she sat alone on her small bed, holding her old phone and staring at another happy family photo, something inside her changed. She wiped her tears and made herself a promise. One day she would become so strong, so successful, so important, that no one would ever be able to abandon her again. And one day, they would see exactly who they lost. From the day Zinal came into his home, Uncle Thabo stopped living for himself. He started living for her. He worked longer hours at the mechanic shop. Sometimes he skipped meals, but he never let her go hungry. When school fees were due, he always found a way. Zinal didn't know how he did it. She only knew that every time she needed something, he was there. When she felt broken, he encouraged her. When she felt weak, he reminded her she was strong. When she felt unwanted, he made her feel chosen. He didn't treat her like a burden. He treated her like a blessing. One night, when she was about 16, she asked him quietly, "Why are you doing all this for me?" He smiled and said words she would never forget. "You are not my niece. You are my daughter." Those words healed pieces of her heart her mother had destroyed. Years passed. Zinal studied hard. She stayed focused on her dream. She remembered her promise. And she did it. She became a successful corporate attorney in Johannesburg. The first time she received her big salary, she didn't spend it on herself. She bought Uncle Thabo a brand new sofa because she remembered how his old one was broken. She bought him warm clothes. Better food. She told him, "Now it's your turn to rest." He smiled, proud and happy. But there was something she didn't know. He had been hiding his pain. His cough was getting worse. His body was getting weaker. But he never told her because he didn't want her to worry. Then one morning everything changed. She got a phone call. The words didn't make sense at first. Your uncle, he's gone. Gone. Just like that. Her knees gave up. Her heart shattered. The man who saved her, the man who stayed, the man who loved her when no one else did, was gone forever. At the funeral she stood there, numb, lost, and broken. But then she saw faces she never expected to see again. Her mother, her relatives. The same people who disappeared years ago. The same people who never cared. They were back. And they weren't there for love. They were there for something else. The day of the inheritance reading was cold and quiet in Pretoria. Zinel sat outside the lawyer's office, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her heart was still heavy from Uncle Tabo's death. She wasn't there for money. She was there because he was her father in every way that mattered. When she walked into the room, her steps slowed. And then she saw her mother, Nomusa Dlamini. For a moment, Zinel forgot how to breathe. It had been 12 years. Nomusa looked older now. Her face had more lines. Her hair was shorter. But her eyes were the same. Cold, distant. She didn't smile. She didn't stand up. She didn't say, I'm sorry. She just looked at Zinel like she was a stranger. Like she was nothing. Zinel felt that familiar pain in her chest, but she stayed strong. She refused to look weak in front of the woman who broke her. Around the table, other relatives sat in expensive clothes, whispering to each other. Zinel could hear them. Why is she here? She doesn't belong here. I thought she disappeared. Their words were quiet, but their meaning was loud. To them she was still that abandoned girl. The unwanted child. The one who didn't matter. No one knew who she had become. No one knew her story. No one knew her strength. Nomusa didn't defend her. She didn't even look at her. She was too busy watching the lawyer's desk. Waiting. Focused. Calculating. Like this was a business meeting, not a family moment. The lawyer finally walked in with a thick file in his hands. The room went silent immediately. Chairs shifted. Bodies leaned forward. Everyone was ready. Everyone was watching. Everyone was hungry. Hungry for money. Hungry for property. Hungry for whatever Uncle Tabo had left behind. Zinel sat quietly, her heart beating fast. Not because she cared about the inheritance, but because she suddenly realized something. This was not about grief. This was about greed. And she was right in the middle of it. The lawyer had barely started speaking when Nomusa suddenly raised her hand. Excuse me, she said loudly, her voice sharp and confident. Before you continue, I just want to make something clear. I am his sister. I have a rightful share in his estate. The room shifted immediately. Some relatives nodded. Others leaned forward, interested. The lawyer tried to speak again, but Nomusa wasn't finished. I am blood, she continued. Family is family. That cannot be ignored. Zinel felt her chest tighten. Blood? Family? Where was that blood when she was standing alone in the rain at 15? Where was that family when Uncle Tabo was working himself to exhaustion to raise a child that wasn't his? Before the lawyer could respond, another relative spoke. Yes, she's right, an older man said. We are his real family. We deserve our share. A woman sitting beside him added, it would be unfair to leave us with nothing. We have rights. Rights. That word kept coming again and again. Rights. Blood. Family. Entitlement. The room was no longer calm. It was loud. Messy. Ugly. Everyone was talking at once now. But something was missing. No one talked about love. No one talked about sacrifice. No one talked about the man who stayed up late worrying about school fees. No one talked about the man who skipped meals so Zinel could eat. No one talked about Uncle Tabo. They only talked about what he left behind. Not who he was. Zinel sat there quietly, her hands resting in her lap. She didn't argue. She didn't interrupt. She didn't defend herself. He just watched them. Every word they spoke showed their true faces. Every demand they made exposed their true hearts. They didn't come for him. They came for his money. Even Nomusa. Especially Nomusa. For the first time, Nomusa looked at Zinel directly. Not with love. Not with regret. But with expectation. Like she was waiting for Zinel to agree. To share. To surrender. But Zinel said nothing. He just listened. And waited. Because deep down she knew something they didn't. Uncle Tabo had already made his choice. The room was full of noise just seconds ago. Everyone talking. Everyone demanding. Everyone expecting to win something. Then the lawyer cleared his throat. And everything went quiet. He adjusted his glasses, looked down at the paper and spoke slowly and clearly. According to the final will of Mr. Tabo Makona, Everyone leaned forward. Nomusa's eyes were fixed on him, her fingers crossed tightly, her breathing slow and hopeful. The lawyer continued. Everything is left to Zinal Makona. For a second no one moved, no one breathed, no one understood. Then it hit them. Everything. Everything. The house. The savings. The land. The investments. Everything. The silence in the room felt louder than shouting. Nomusa's face lost its color. Her mouth opened slightly but no words came out. Her confident posture disappeared. He looked weak. What? One relative whispered. That's impossible, another said. There must be a mistake, someone else added. Panic spread across the room like fire. People sat up straight. Others leaned toward the lawyer trying to see the paper with their own eyes. Nomusa finally spoke, her voice shaking. No, this is wrong. I am his sister. But the lawyer didn't react. He simply turned the page and said calmly, there is no mistake. All eyes slowly turned toward Zinal. The same girl they ignored. The same girl they whispered about. The same girl they believed was nothing. She was now everything. Zinal sat frozen in her chair. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. She didn't expect this. She didn't ask for this. But Uncle Tabo had chosen her. Not them. Her. Tears filled her eyes but she refused to let them fall. Because in that moment she understood the truth. He didn't leave her wealth. He left her recognition. He left her proof. Proof that she was loved. Proof that she mattered. Proof that the abandoned girl was never abandoned by the one person who truly mattered. No. The same people who once ignored her were staring at her like their future depended on her. The silence didn't last long. Suddenly Nomusa's face changed. Her eyes filled with tears. Real tears. Or at least tears that looked real. She stood up quickly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor and looked directly at Zinal. My daughter, she said, her voice breaking. Daughter. That word. The same word she hadn't used in 12 years. The same word she forgot the night she left her in the rain. Nomusa walked closer, her hands shaking. Please, my daughter, she cried. We are family. We can fix this. We belong together. Zinal felt her heart twist, not because she believed her, but because she remembered being 15 years old, wishing to hear those words. Now they came too late. Before Zinal could respond, the other relatives rushed in. They surrounded her like she was the center of everything. Zinal, we are your family, one aunt said quickly. We love you, another added. You must help us, an uncle said, his voice desperate. Someone touched her arm. Someone else tried to hold her hand. Share with us. We deserve something. It's the right thing to do. Their voices mixed together. Begging, pleading, demanding. It was overwhelming. Just minutes ago these same people said she didn't belong there. Now suddenly she was their daughter, their niece, their family. Zinal looked at her mother. Really looked at her. She noticed something important. Nomusa's tears fell. But her eyes weren't full of love. They were full of fear. Fear of losing money. Not fear of losing her daughter. And in that moment, Zinal understood everything. This wasn't love. This was desperation. Their love had a price. Their kindness had a condition. Their apology had a purpose. Money. Nothing else. Zinal gently pulled her hand away. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She simply sat there, calm and quiet, because she knew the truth. They didn't come back for her. They came back for what she had. And she wasn't buying their love. Not now. Not ever. After the room calmed, the lawyer handed Zinal a small envelope. It wasn't for the public. It was for her alone. Her hands shook as she took it. The paper inside was old but carefully folded. She could feel her uncle's presence in it, even though he was gone. She opened it slowly. Her eyes scanned the words. Then she froze. I knew they would come back when you became valuable, it read. Tears welled up. Her uncle had known. He had always known. He had seen the world that would try to take everything from her. And he had planned for it. Every sacrifice he made. Every sleepless night. Every hard day in the mechanic shop. It was all to protect her. To prepare her. To make sure that when the time came she would be ready. She read on. I wanted you to be safe. I wanted you to be strong. I wanted you to know your worth even when they tried to erase it. Never forget, my daughter, you are more than what they can take from you. You are everything I hoped you would become. Her hands gripped the letter tightly. Her chest swelled. This wasn't just inheritance. This was strategy. This was love. This was power. Uncle Tabo had given her a choice. He had given her everything he could, not just in money or property, but in confidence and courage. He had given her the tools to stand tall in a world full of greed and lies. For the first time, Zinel felt the weight of what he had done for her. She had thought she was alone. She had thought she had nothing. But now she understood. Every struggle, every lonely night, every tear shed over his absence had led to this moment. He had left her not only his estate but his wisdom. Not only his love but his power. And in that moment, Zinel realized something else. She didn't need their approval. She didn't need their love. She didn't need their forgiveness. She had everything she needed. Her uncle had made sure of it. And she would never forget it. Because this letter was more than words. It was a promise, a shield, a legacy. And Zinel was ready. Zinel took a deep breath and slowly stood up. The room, still buzzing with chaos, seemed to fade around her. All eyes were on her. Especially her mother's. Nomusa's face was pale, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to speak but couldn't. Zinel didn't look away. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't beg for their approval. She simply looked at the woman who had left her in the rain, who had erased her from her life, who had pretended she didn't exist. There was no anger in her voice. No trembling. Only calm. Only strength. Only truth. You abandoned me when I was worthless, Zinel said clearly, her eyes unwavering. You don't deserve me now that I'm valuable. Her words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. The room went silent. Even the whispers stopped. Even the desperate pleas paused. Nomusa opened her mouth again, but Zinel didn't care. She didn't need to hear excuses. She didn't need apologies. She didn't need love that came too late and carried a price. Zinel turned slowly, letting every movement feel deliberate, controlled, unstoppable. She walked past the stunned relatives, past the lawyer, past the shocked faces of people who had tried to claim what she rightfully earned. Each step felt lighter than the last. Every footfall was a declaration. Every movement a promise kept to herself years ago. She walked out of the office, leaving their desperate voices behind. Leaving their greed, their fake tears, their claims of family. Leaving them just as they had left her years before. Alone. Unloved. Forgotten. But this time she was not broken. She was not powerless. She was free. Outside, the Praetoria's sky was bright, the clouds breaking after the rain. Zinel inhaled deeply. The world felt larger, open and waiting. Her heart was no longer heavy with the past. It was light with victory. She had taken back everything that was hers. Not just the inheritance. Not just the money or the land or the house. She had taken back her life, her dignity, her power. And in that moment she knew something she had dreamed of since she was 15. No one could ever abandon her again. Not her mother. Not her family. Not anyone. Months had passed since the inheritance reading, and Zinel's life had changed in ways she never imagined. She lived peacefully now, waking up each morning without fear, without the weight of abandonment pressing on her chest. She was successful, yes. Her career as a corporate attorney in Johannesburg flourished. People respected her. Opportunities came her way. But it wasn't the money or the titles that made her feel whole. It was the freedom she had earned. The freedom to live on her own terms without anyone deciding her worth. Every morning she walked through the streets of the city with her head held high, feeling the sunlight on her face, hearing the sounds of life around her, and knowing that she had survived everything. She had built herself from pain, from loss, from being abandoned, into someone unshakable, unstoppable. And she finally understood the truth that had taken years to sink in. Family isn't just blood. Family isn't the people who call you once in a while or post pictures online. Family is the people who stay when it's hard, who love without expecting anything in return, who fight for you when no one else will. Her uncle Tabo had been her true family. He had stayed. He had loved. And through him she had learned how to love herself. Now, when she thought about her mother, she no longer felt anger or hurt. She felt clarity. She felt peace. Because the day her mother abandoned her, she lost something she could never get back. And Zinel had gained everything. The day she abandoned me, she lost everything she would one day beg for. Zinel smiled softly, a quiet, victorious smile. She was free. She was loved. She was whole. And nothing could take that away.